Is there rules about that?
And planning board, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines are opened. Go for it.
Very well. Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to the Town of East Hampton Planning Board meeting for December 4th, 2024. We have a full plate tonight. We have a public hearing on the Springs General Store application. We have 4 matters on for site plan and/or subdivision review. Then we have a few matters in our regular meeting. So we'll get started first with, is Lou on the
I'm here.
Zoom?
Yeah.
Okay, we have Lou there. I don't see him, but I hear him. And Jen, unfortunately, is under the weather and not with us tonight. So we're going to start with the public hearing. The way this will work is that, Lou, do you have the public hearing notice, Lou?
Yes, I do, Sam.
Okay, Lou will read the public hearing notice into the record. Then we'll check with council to see that we have jurisdiction. And then the planning department will give us a very brief overview. And after that, anyone who's here in the room will have 3 minutes to step up to the podium and speak. And then after that, anyone who's on the Zoom via LTV will have 3 minutes to speak. If after everyone who's in the room and on LTV has had their opportunity to speak, we'll give it another round of 3 minutes each. After all that, the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond, and the applicant will also be given the opportunity, if it wants to submit or provide its response subsequent to tonight, depending upon what the applicant hears. We give them that option. And then after the applicant speaks, there presumably will be a motion to close the record, and the public hearing portion will be over. So with that, and after we do the public hearing, then we'll move into the work session, which will tonight we're doing just in case anyone's here for anything else. We're going to do the Montauk Shores Condo Sewage Treatment Plant, followed by Glen Valley Associates. That's a subdivision review. Then the Hampton's Church, and finally 54 Industrial Road, Wainscott Self-Storage. Following that, we have a few matters on for our regular meeting, some resolutions and boards of review. So with that, Lou, if you could kindly read into the record the public hearing notice.
Take notice that a public hearing will be held before the East Hampton Town Planning Board at Town Hall, 159 Pantago Road, East Hampton, on Wednesday, December 4th, 2024, at 6:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard, to consider the application of Springs General Store 2 site plan pursuant to Article 6 of Chapter 255 of the East Hampton Town Code to convert an existing 175 square foot storage shed to a wine sales location, add an indoor table with 4 seats to an existing takeout food store, maintain 3 outdoor picnic tables for patrons, and abandon the existing kayak rental use. The property is currently improved with a 2.5-story retail building with a 2nd floor accessory apartment and multiple accessory structures. The property contains 56,500 square feet, 1.297 acres, and is located on the northeasterly side of Old Stone Highway, Springs, and is situate in a neighborhood business harbor protection overlay district, zoning district, and Springs historic district as shown on the official zoning map of the town of East Hampton, and is identified on the Suffolk County tax map as parcel number 300-80-2-1. Subject application is classified as a Type 2 action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQRA, Part 617 of the New York Code of Rules and Regulations, and Chapter 128, Environmental Quality Review of the Town Code. A site plan prepared by George Walbridge Surveyors, PC, dated revised April 5th, 2024. A site plan prepared by InterScience dated April 4th, 2024. A planning plan prepared by InterScience dated April 4th, 2024. A set of plans prepared by TF Engineering, PLLC, dated revised April 2nd, 2024, including septic site plan and septic detail sheet, a photometric plan prepared by Practical Arts dated May 24, 2024, and a drainage site plan prepared by TF Engineering, PLLC, dated January 29, 2024. Are available for inspection at the Planning Board offices, 300 Pantago Place, Suite 103, East Hampton, New York. The public hearing will be held live and in person by the Planning Board and will be available electronically by video and teleconferencing and will be televised on local TV, LTV, Channel 22, and available for live stream on the LTV website, https://www.ltveh.org. The public shall be permitted to appear in person, but may also provide comments on the matter being heard by calling 351-888-6331. Any person or party wishing to be heard with respect to the foregoing may do so in person or by agent, or by attorney, or by call-in to the live stream, or by written comment addressed to the Planning Board, 300 Pantago Place, Suite 103, East Hampton, New York, 11937. Comment may also be submitted to the Planning Board by email to planningboard@ehamptonny.gov. All comments must be received by the Planning Board by the date and time of the public hearing. Dated November 6, 2024, Samuel Kramer, Chairman.
Thank you, Lou, and especially appreciate the effort. And now you don't need to say anything else. Okay, Nancy, do we have jurisdiction?
Yes, I reviewed the affidavit of service and posting, and it does appear that there is proper notice and you therefore have jurisdiction.
Very good. Tina, would you like to give us a brief overview?
Sure. Lou's description really covered the main elements of the site plan. It's to convert an existing 170 square foot wine storage shed to a wine sales location, add one table inside, maintain existing tables outside, and abandon an existing kayak rental use. Earlier in the application process, the application had included an SLA liquor license for on-site consumption. That element of the proposed action is no longer part of the scope of work. The ZBA issued a natural resources special permit for the proposed action in September of 2024. No variances were needed, but several of the elements of the scope of work were within natural resources permit jurisdiction, and several structures that were within wetland setbacks are to be removed. The action also includes an 11,000 some odd square foot revegetation program with native species that will help to buffer the site development from adjacent wetlands associated with Accabonac Harbor. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody in the room tonight who wishes to make a public comment? If you're here in response to any comments, so you'll have your chance. Please step up to the podium. Let us have your name and address. Please spell your last name. And I'll be keeping track on this device. I'll let you know when there's 20 seconds. I'll let you know when there's 20 seconds to go so you can wrap up.
Okay, my name is Scott Gilbert. I live at 12 Shipyard Lane in Springs. I brought some materials, so I'm going to hand them maybe to the planners.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the clock just for a moment so that you can do that and let you know that you'll need to submit what you have to the planning board office electronically. Is that something? All right, if you can do, when might you be able to do that?
I mean, I'm here with my wife,
By the magic of
Judy
computers.
Sund, and also my attorney, Martha Riker, who's given me some advice on this, and she's helped me put this together, although they are photographs that I've taken.
All right, well, you don't have to do it right now, this moment, but by tomorrow, we're going to accept these because they are being submitted at the public hearing. And leave will be given to get it in electronically by tomorrow. Okay?
Good, thank you. Thank
Very
you
well.
for the
Okay,
opportunity.
I'm going to reset it, and please go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My family and I have lived here in Springs for 20 years, actually a bit more than that, in the same house on Shipyard Lane, which is around the corner from the general store. The general store is a hugely important asset to the community. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because of the time limit, but it's of great historic value. It is the sentimental heart of Springs, and it's in a very sensitive place, abutting a nature preserve across the water from the Paula Krasner House, and it coexists with residential properties on Harbor Lane, on Old Stone Highway, on School Street, and around the corner on Shipyard Lane. How it is developed and how it is operated is very important to people in Springs and affects neighbors in significant ways. I'm here to oppose the plan as presented to the board. First, the discontinuance of the kayak use in exchange for introducing an organic wine store is a net loss to the community. Now, I recognize that you may not have the authority to prevent that loss, but it's not a good thing. It was a place where parents and children could go and grab a kayak at a place where they could launch it and have facilities available to them for food and otherwise. And now that's gone. That's a significant loss. And I think the countervailing benefit of getting organic wine is really not a compensation, given that we have 2 liquor stores within 2 miles of the place. And this wine store is being placed in close proximity to a school and a church. It is nonsensical, and in my opinion, has been the reason why this whole process has been delayed so much. I applaud you for sticking to your guns, recognizing the community opposition to the on-site consumption of alcohol. And the question is, how will that commitment be enforced? And I think the town should demonstrate how it's going to do that. I don't think the store is going to have the resources or the incentive to enforce that, and I think the town is going to be strapped as well. Secondly, I think the parking plan is likely to create safety and congestion problems in the community. I was unable to understand the plan. The legend indicates 13 places are being provided. I could only find 10 on the survey that was part of the materials. Where are the other 3 spaces? And at any rate, they are not enough. The regime here would require parallel parking along the edge of the parking lot near the street, which is a change from the existing usage.
20 seconds, and
All right,
again,
well then
we'll come back to you if you want.
I would like you to come back to me because I've waited 2 years or so to have a few words on this, and I've put some effort. I'm going to direct your attention to the photos which I've provided. The first one shows the general store on a Saturday morning in July.
Now I'll ask you to wrap up.
Okay.
For
The
now.
plan does not actually address the realities of the parking situation. There are about 20 cars in this picture, and the other photographs in this show the congestion from the Springs Presbyterian Church that has a food pantry, and also the proximity of a children pedestrian crossing sidewalk to the proposed single exit to the parking lot. That's dangerous, and you should require a traffic study and really think about how this parking plan is going to work, because to me, it seems like an invitation to chaos and danger for the community.
Okay, like I say, we're going to go through,
Thank
see if
you.
anybody else has anything to say, and then we'll come back to you. All right, does anybody else in the room wish to speak on the application? Please step up to the podium. need your name and address, and please spell your last name.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Martha Reichert, Reichert. I'm an attorney with Toomey, Latham, Shea, Kelly, Dubin, and Corderaro. I represent Mr. Gilbert and his family. And to pick up from where Mr. Gilbert stopped, I think that in reviewing the plans, we wanted to really sort of look at the parking plan, the layout, the traffic impacts. Those are of paramount concern in terms of this is it's a heavily trafficked road. We have the intersection of School Street right at the general store. And the parking plan that's been laid out really reduces the number of parking spots that are sort of haphazardly already there in terms of historic use. And I think that aside from the fact that it appears to be missing 3 spots, the change in the traffic circulation pattern within the parking lot and the one-way entrances, I think, don't speak to the reality of the school drop-off line that you see on a daily basis in the morning and the afternoon, the Springs Food Pantry line, the pedestrian crosswalks. And so one of the things that we would like the board or the applicant to address is really sort of a careful, close look at the safety concerns, the reality of traffic circulation. I understand it's a tight spot, but we think that the parking plan could be improved upon, and we would like to have that addressed in terms of moving forward with the site plan. And that's really the sum and substance of our comments at this point.
Very well. Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anyone else in the room who wishes to speak with respect to the application? Please, step up. Hi.
Hello, I'm Andrew Burke, Burke. I live at 84 Spring Close Highway, right over here.
Okay.
This is my very first time here. Hello, everyone. I'm new. I've lived here for 2 years. I'm originally from Oyster Bay, just trying to give context and what I kind of want to say here. Being here for the 2 years that I've been here, I've made a lot of very gradual efforts to become a part of your community because I want to be here for a very long time. In this short time of 2 years, I've only met a handful of people that I've gotten somewhat close to, and one of them is Daniel Bennett, who has kind of let me know about this plan and what has gone on. Besides the technical aspects of worrying about parking and everything else, I think these are all valid concerns. They sound like they are. I think what I just want to say from a character reference for Dan is I think a lot of what we are worried about with this idea is what may end up happening. This guy that is trying to do this is sitting in this room with you, is a member of the community. I don't think he's really, I would never consider him an outsider. I wouldn't consider him to be malicious in any way with any plans he's trying to move forward. And just as I'm putting my own character reference on the line of the people who I've gotten to know in East Hampton over the past 2 years, I trust his word when he says he's going to do what he can to make right by his neighbors and other members of the community. I put my trust in him and everything he's done. And personally, I would like to see this store open, and we can do what we can to get it going. That's all.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on the application? Please step right up. We'll need your name and address, and please spell your last name.
I am Sam Yarabek. My last name is spelled Y-A-R-A-B as in boy, E-K. I grew up in Amagansett. I'm from here. I went to a variety of schools here. I lived for many years and summers with the Colemans, who are Dan's mom and her partner, Jeff, in Springs. I grew up around Springs. I played basketball against Springs, et cetera, et cetera. So I've grown up here for a long time. Currently live in Sag Harbor, 51 Harrison Street. Just a character reference for Dan. Again, he's my lifelong best friend. I grew up, I've known him since I was about 5. And this is a man of his word. I know that I don't know that, again, also don't know the specifics of this plan. Forgive me for my nails. My nails are painted blue because my niece painted them over Thanksgiving. Really a fashion choice as much as a blunder, speaking in public, not having washed those off. Just wanted to give a character reference for Dan. He's really a spectacular guy, a man of his word, a man of principle, and cares about the community, always has, and certainly, again, totally understand parking issues and concerns about what could come given some of the more boisterous, less than agreeable outcomes of new business in the Hamptons. This will not be a new surf lodge. This will not be a new place where people are coming to, party and whatever. We don't want that. He doesn't want that. And I guess that's all I just wanted to say. All right.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the room who wishes to make a public comment? Please step up. Thank you.
Hello.
Good evening. Your name and address.
Jeff Kuzara, 984 Springs Fireplace Road. Do you need me to spell that last name?
If you would, yes.
K-U-Z like zebra, A-R-A.
Thanks very much. Go right ahead.
All right, well, I've also, I think you said you had been here for about 20 years. Is that about right? So I also am somewhat of a newcomer. That is, I've been here for about 20 years or so. I come from maybe a little bit further away. I come from Wyoming, from a small mountain community where we actually have several buildings that are not unlike Springs General Store. And I also, I guess, am sort of missing when it was open. It really reminded me of home. There was something that it felt to me like it knit the community together. But I guess thinking about some of the concerns that I've heard, I just am thinking back to, I think her name was Christy, who was the previous leaseholder. And I think everyone loved going there, including myself, for coffee and a roll on a sunny Saturday morning. I'm trying to think of course, I don't know, but I'm trying to think of if there was ever any real problem with, I think she sold beer. She had not very organized parking. I guess I just remember feeling very comfortable and at home and grateful for this lovely old building and the services it provided. And I think it's kind of a shame that it's sitting there shuttered now for 3 years. And I can only second everything that I've heard about Daniel Bennett. I think his intentions are not too far off of my sentiment. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who wishes to make a public comment on this application? Seeing none, hearing none. Matt, do we have anyone in queue?
You have 0 calls on the line. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if anyone who's spoken previously wishes to have an additional 3 minutes, you're welcome to that. Just let us have your name again for the record.
Scott Gilbert.
Thank you.
Shipyard Lane. I too have very many fond memories of the operation of the general store, for all the reasons that the gentleman pointed out. My children grew up on the egg sandwich. They played in the playhouse on the lawn. And I guess part of the motivation here is to make sure that the change is good when change brings good things, but it also has to be watched when it brings things that are either unintended consequences or otherwise. One of the things that I think I'd like the applicant, if they would, to clarify tonight is, what is the story with the parking plan? I couldn't find 13 spaces on the survey, and I don't think it's enough. So I think the whole design of the parking plan is going to unleash a bit of chaos in this area. I came here tonight and there were about 35 cars lined up on Old Stone Highway for the food bank, which is great. But someone has to think about how these uses are going to interact in the neighborhood. Well, one other thing I'd like to just get clarity on tonight, perhaps the applicant can answer this. I was shocked by the planning session, I think it was November 6th, in which there was an issue about whether the new low nitrogen septic system would be installed or not. And in the course of this conversation, the board was accused of criminal activity in terms of the way it's handled this matter. I saw it on YouTube. It was a video transcript of the hearing. And so that raises concerns in my mind about the good faith of the applicants. And I'd like to get clarity tonight. The natural resource special permit document seems to assume that a low nitrogen septic system would in fact be installed. Mr. Bennett walked that back at the last session and said it was contingent upon a grant, and there was some question about whether there would be a grant. Well, having put in one of those low nitrogen systems this year, the grant process worked very, very smoothly. We got it within a very short period of time. The system has been installed and the grant has been provided. So that conversation was a month ago. So in a month, it would seem to me that the Natural Resource Department and the other interested parties and the applicant must have gotten together and resolved that issue. And I'd like to hear what the status is of the commitment to install a low nitrogen system. It's an incredibly sensitive part of Springs. It's where the creek meets the harbor, and that really needs to be done. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again.
Very well, thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else in the room who wishes to add anything to their previous comments? Okay. If not, we'll give the applicant the opportunity to respond to the comments that were made tonight. Or if the applicant wants additional time, we can keep the record open for the purpose of the applicant giving us their responses. It's up to the applicant. Okay, sure. I would just ask that you limit your well, there's that, but limit your comments to responding to the comments that were made at this public hearing.
Sure. Michael Shiano from InterScience Research Associates on behalf of the applicant. First, regarding the question about parking, Tina, can you just zoom in on the area where the leaching structures for the new septic system are? On the survey, each one of the spaces is labeled in a circle. It is more clear on the InterScience plan. However, all 13 of them are specifically labeled. There's 4 in the front, and then there are 6 in the back. I'll point, yeah.
Do you want me to bring the other plan up?
Yeah, sure. I think that's probably going to be a little more clear.
This is the one you're talking about?
Yes, yes. So if you just zoom in. So that's where the other 3 probably are, because the septic system is on the plan, 8, 9, and 10. The numbers do not show up very clearly. However, we have 13. There's the 4 in the front of the building, right in front, including the ADA space. There's 6 in the back, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And there's 11, 12, and 13 in the front where the fence is. Originally, the last time that this property came before the planning board, when the kayak use was added, the board requested 12 spaces. That was what was on the site plan, the approved site plan. Based on what we're proposing here, we are adding 1 additional use based on our read of the code, and this is what has been discussed. So that is why this number of spaces is specifically identified. The layout of the site was based on the pre-submission conference, or whatever I forget what the specific term is that the town of East Hampton uses, but when we met with the board, this board had some concerns about how the layout was and how on a busy weekend that there is no real organization to the parking lot. And so the fence that was added in the front, the clear entrance and exit, and the fact that we have delineated spaces showing that we are providing the required number of spaces is all part of the discussion that the applicant had with the board at that time. Regarding the IA-OWTS, based on what we're proposing to do, there is no actual increase based on our discussions and with the health department and which we have submitted those records of those conversations to this board. They have indicated that it is not a requirement. However, we have proposed to do so. We have just made it very clear in every one of our submissions and every time that we come before this board and the other boards that it is contingent on us being able to get the grant. We're just being very clear about that because it is a lot of money in order to do this. It is more expensive than a standard residential system, especially because there are grease traps that have to be updated, and there's a very specific way that this has to be designed in order to make sure that it continues to maintain the nitrogen reduction, so it is more expensive. So it is important that if we're going to do that, that we have that grant. I believe that we will likely need to renew that, and I have been having conversations with the Natural Resources Department about it, but the next time that we get a chance to really talk about that isn't until later this month when it reopens up again. But we are committed to do it as long as the money is available. And I'm sure the money will be available. However, we still have to say that as part of what our concern is for on that matter. I just want to point out that all of the uses that are existing on the site and that are proposed on the site are permitted uses, and so we're not doing anything kind of untoward here. I believe that at the end of the day, that this all of the improvements that are being proposed will be not just in the sake of word improvements, but will actually be improvements to the site and for the community. So thank you.
Adding very briefly, John Bennett for the applicant. There has been absolutely no change in our position on the IA system. As Mike said, we've always been crystal clear. So Mr. Gilbert must not have been listening. We've always been crystal clear that it's contingent upon the continued availability of the grant. And that's very, very important. The parking that has come about as a result of this board's very specific comments and the staff's very specific comments. We have essentially done we have done everything that the board has directed us to do, including trying to make it so that this isn't one large curb cut by putting some stockade fence in it, but at the same time, trying very much not to have any sort of suburban look. And the board has always been very appreciative. It's a fine line, but I think we've more than reached it, and that's important. This is a permitted retail use, as the board is aware. There's no special exception involved here. There's no variance that are necessary to do this. It's a retail use of organic wines, absolutely no spirits, none whatsoever, in a building that is the size essentially of a parking space. And it's always been as part of the plan. The fact that the kayak use is leaving has to do with the fact that you can't have more than 2 uses on this property. I know there was some concern about that at the beginning, and the board indeed acquiesced over the last couple of years, said, yes, you have to have a community retail center to have more than 2 uses. So that's where we are with that. These complaints of Mr. Gilbert are what I can only call generalized complaints. There's no science behind it. He's not a traffic engineer. There's no need for that. We have done exactly what the board told us to do in terms of parking. And I would respectfully request that you close the hearing so that the board can come to a determination so we don't lose yet another season. I thank you all for your considered study of this application throughout. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, Lou, I hate to impose upon you one more time, but would you make a motion? Lou?
He's there.
He's
Sorry,
there.
I was muted, Sam, sorry. I make a motion to close the hearing.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. All those in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Thank you all for coming out. We appreciate your input. Okay. Yes, happy holidays to all of you. Okay. We're going to now move on to the matters on our work session. The first is going to be the Montauk Shores Condo Sewage Treatment Plant. Ed is going to be on that for the board. Dan is going to cover that for the planning department. And I believe I see the applicant in the front row. So, very well. Okay. Let's let these folks leave before,
Who painted those fingernails again? That's his story.
okay, looks like we're good. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, Planning Board. This is the rapid review of a site.
Dan, could you move the mic
Oh,
closer?
sorry, not close enough.
Thanks.
That work now? All right. So this is a rapid review of the Montauk Shores Sewage Treatment Plant site plan application. As a reminder, this is a proposal to construct an on-site sewage treatment plant that will process up to 47,000 gallons per day. It will serve all residential units and the common facilities in the Montauk Shores condominium, residential mobile home park containing approximately 199 units, community recreation building, maintenance building, offices, 2 pools, and playing courts. Most recently, this application was before the board for was before the board for a public hearing. It was held in person, and electronically by video and teleconferencing, and televised by LTV on October 23rd, 2024. At that meeting, no members of the public spoke at the hearing, and no written letters have been submitted to the file to date. Therefore, the hearing was closed on October 23rd, 2024. So following up on the hearing, there was only and following up on our past review, there's only a few really remaining issues that we've had, were comments that we have in the previous memo, that mostly stem from the last review from September 25th, 2024. The memo goes through these pretty full in detail, but we're going to go through them briefly tonight. The first of these comments had to do with the construction protocol. The planning department generally found that the original ones was developed in a manner consistent with the previous recommendations for the project, but there were a few minor edits that we requested. The applicant has since submitted this and edited as requested by the planning department and board at the time, so we generally found this to be acceptable. The next comment from there was that there was a request for revised surveys showing that the allowed, existing, and proposed lot coverage and total lot coverage consistently throughout the plans. The applicant has since revised their surveys showing them all 3 of those calculations as requested, and we found this to be compliant with the previous requests. Following suit, there was comments last time regarding the lighting plan, requesting additional clarification to ensure it was consistent with the town code and the board policies. The applicants have since submitted revised photometric lighting plan and exterior elevation sheets to address the concerns of the board last time. Based on a review of the photometric plan and the specifications provided, we found it to be consistent with the town code and board policies. Fixtures were fully shielded, dark sky compliant, and color temperatures that met the color temperature guidance. Our only comment with this really was about the elevation sheets. We noted that there were during the last review, we did request that the fixtures shown in the elevations would be identified, because this is something that's typically required with the ARB, but also required by the planning board throughout the review. Now, some of those have been identified on the plans, but not all of them as we reviewed it. So again, given that this is relatively minor compared to the full site plan review process, we recommended that the revised exterior elevation sheet including those names of the fixtures with the specifications, as some of the fixtures currently have, should be required, but more so as a final condition, as a condition of final approval. And the planning board should determine whether or not they agree on this point. As again, as stated, this is ultimately something that will be required by the ARB upon their formal review of the application. From there, the next comment we had to do with the plans themselves. During the previous review, the planning board requested that a notation of the plans indicating the approval relates only to the sewage treatment plant and not to the overall stormwater drainage systems on the property be shown on the plans, and I'll zoom in here. So with the most recent submission, the applicants have included language to reflect on this point. That language is visible here and it's identified throughout the memo. We wanted to call the planning board's attention to this note on the survey, as we felt that this is an important item, an item important enough that the board themselves should be comfortable with. During our memo, you'll see we suggested a shorter context, a shorter statement would be more effective and clear in perpetuity. For the record, mainly we recommended that it just states the planning board approval relates only to the sewage treatment plant and not to the overall stormwater drainage systems on the property. So the planning board, again, just discuss whether or not they agree on this point. And if the planning board agrees, the planning department recommends that the submission of a revised survey should be required as a condition for final approval. From there, there's the last part of this review really had to do with, potential conditions of approval for this project. Again, the only issues that we're remaining at this point were that small exterior elevation sheet revision and comments on the survey here. Provided the board agrees with the conditions that we recommended, we found the application is ready for approval. So with respect to the conditions that they're outlined, you'll see there are 15 outlined in the memo. Most of these are standard and typical of the site plan project, but there are a few unique to this project, which I'll just go over again now. That goes with item 4, saying that a revised set of surveys should be provided with the corrected annotation, as we just indicated about the sewage treatment plant. The planning board approval relates only to the sewage treatment plant and not to the overall stormwater drainage on the property. Item 5, a revised set of exterior elevations should be provided with the specific manufacturer's label provided for each of the lighting fixtures proposed around the sewage treatment plant building. And again, each fixture shall be compliant with the planning board lighting policy and town code as determined by the planning department. Item 6, the applicant shall maintain the sewage treatment plant system in accordance with the sewer agency agreement, which they've already indicated is recorded with Suffolk County as part of their approval. Item 7, the monthly exercising of the generator may only be conducted during daytime hours as described in the town code. And finally, item 8, which is saying the premises shall be limited to 199 residential units, and any attempt to expand beyond 199 units shall require the comprehensive review and approval of the planning board. That's the remainder of my view, and I'm open to any questions.
Very good. Thank you for that complete report. Does the applicant wish to add anything?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Richard Whalen from Whalen Filer PLLC on behalf of the applicant, Montauk Shores Condominium. What are you guys doing up there tonight?
Because we have 5. We have Lou on the, in that little
Lou is
window up
remote
there.
tonight.
I'm sorry?
Lou is remote tonight.
Lou is remote and Jen is not present.
All right, had me a little bit confused there.
She's under the weather.
We look okay up here though, right?
Right?
Yeah, you're fine, It works with 5 people, so.
Tell everyone you know.
You have, by the way, you have a letter you received, I think, today from James Greenbaum, with today's date, and just want to reiterate, as Mr. Greenbaum stated in his letter to you, that Montauk Shores wants to thank the board for the, for its involvement and its comments and involvement in making this project, which is for the benefit of not only Montauk Shores, but for the town to go forward. So we do appreciate the time and effort that the board has spent on this. The conditions set forth in Daniel's memo are acceptable with one exception. And the one exception concerns the notation on the survey. So the planning board, when you discussed this back in September, you wrote a letter to the applicant, and one of the conditions of the letter was that the planning board requires a notation on the plans that indicate that the approval relates only to the sewage treatment plant and not to the overall stormwater drainage systems on the property. So we came up with some language. We ran it by your counsel, Nancy Marshall. Nancy actually modified what we proposed, sent it back to us, and we said, oh, yeah, okay, that's agreeable. So the language that is discussed in Daniel's memo that we proposed is based on conversations with your attorney and is acceptable to us and was acceptable to your attorney. And you didn't specify anything more particular than that. The issue that we have with the change that's being proposed tonight is, in a sense, it seems like the planning department wants to relitigate this issue, or at least keep alive this issue of the board's jurisdiction over the stormwater drainage system on the property. To be clear, you have no jurisdiction over the stormwater drainage system on the Montauk Shores property. That system is legally pre-existing. It's been there for decades. It was there in 2015 when there was a consent order agreed to with the DEC that mainly involved things along the waterfront, but also required that the applicant to design but not implement a stormwater control system that would be employed sometime in the future. The estimated cost of that project, just so you know, is about $2 million, which is why Montauk Shores, given the investment that's involved in what's happening, what we're proposing right now, is not jumping on doing that. I would hope that someday that stormwater control system will be upgraded, but it's not something we're going to do today, and it's not something that the board has jurisdiction over. So we have a problem with the removal of the language that states that you don't have jurisdiction over the stormwater control system. You don't. That's clear. Your own planning department stated in its memo back on September 24th. A couple of the comments that were made at that time, in fact, they referred to in Daniel's memo today. This was item 6 of the, I think it was the September 24th memo. Just see the date on that. September 25th, 2024. Among other things, the planning department noted that it appears the pipes on the property are legally existing. They are. And the planning department also said after internal review of the matter within the town and with the town engineer, it does not appear that the town has authority to regulate the discharges from the pipes or impose conditions on this site plan associated with the stormwater system. And the stormwater system was also determined, and the planning department has acknowledged that we do not require a speedy use permit for a DEC from the discharges that emanate from the stormwater system. So the bottom line is, we want it to be clear that you acknowledge that you don't have jurisdiction. We don't want this issue to come up in the future and there to be ambiguity about it. So that's why the language that we proposed, which your council reviewed and actually modified to what it is today, is something that we would like you to keep. That's really the only issue that we have with the proposed conditions, but we'd like to keep the notation on the map as we have proposed it.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Ed.
Okay. Thanks, Dan, for the quick review, and thanks, Rick, for your comments. And I want to thank you guys for being so speedy with making the changes that you did most recently, the things that Dan enumerated, the construction protocol, lighting, and so on. We're just about there. I do want to just push back a little bit on what you just said, though. I mean, our reason for this is my view anyway. We'll see what the rest of the board thinks, but the second part of that statement seems to us, we're not looking to relitigate in this case. We're not, absolutely. But it seems to indicate that we're setting a precedent that we never have jurisdiction over stormwater systems. That's the way it feels to me. And I think that's what we're trying to avoid. So one possibility is to say that the planning board approval relates only to the sewage treatment plant and not to stormwater drainage systems on this property. Because we do have purview in certain circumstances, right? It's not just a blanket thing. We don't want to, have that language on something that's then going to be, come up to bite us later on with a different application from someone else. So we're not looking to open this up again in this case, but we do want to do something that creates the sense that this is about this property. Maybe we can come up with some other language that we all feel more comfortable with, but staff?
Yeah, no, we don't need to do the, wordsmithing of the document, but I agree with Ed's analysis. I'm very concerned on a set of plans or any thing that issues from this board, setting forth what our jurisdiction is and isn't, that might be picked up down the road by another applicant in a completely other circumstance. I think that by changing the words drainage system on the property to drainage system on this property makes it absolutely clear that we're talking about this property and that the issue is a closed issue. And I think that anybody who might, and I don't anticipate or understand how it would happen, but anyone who might want to relitigate, if you will, the issue, all they need to do is go look at the transcript of this meeting or play the tape of this meeting, and they'll see that this board is very specific about this particular issue, and it only relates to this issue. But again, and I'm sure you understand that.
No, I can suggest there's another option for you, by the way, which is you can say nothing. Okay, we made an application for the sewage treatment plant. We have stormwater related to the sewage treatment plant building. That's as far as it goes.
Well, I would think
the other
you'd want
stuff on the
some...
property just predates this application, and so that's your other option is don't have a notation on there.
Well,
the approval is what the approval is.
You're the ones who want, like, it sounded like you're the ones who wanted, to be
the board had requested the notation, so we then proposed it. Mm-hmm. If you had no notation and simply approved what we applied for, which what you're doing, and you're silent as to the issue of the stormwater control system, I don't think we have a problem with that.
Planning?
I get a little nervous on that just because, for older sites that are out of compliance, right, and not consistent with current policies, when they come in, one of the things we look to do is to understand that and see if the situation can be improved. If we, after all the analysis we did to determine this issue here, if we said nothing, I feel like it would
that's where that's kind of where we did, as well as we do, how much time we spent on this one single issue. And I think that putting something on the plans that is specific and brief and doesn't run the risk of being overstating the situation, I think it serves everyone's needs. So if we, again, this is the kind of thing that, drives non-lawyers crazy. I can certainly understand that.
Matt Udelson, manager. I understand what you're saying, and my question is, in your approval, do I have to make up another 10 copies of this survey with if we were to agree to make a change and then submit the change to all you guys prior to the approval? Or can we put the verbiage on at the end of the project when we do our final CFO and it changes it at that point?
You want to save money? Is that the idea?
That's no joke.
I don't mean to.
Between the two lawyers, they just agreed to something that cost us over $1,000, and now all of a sudden it's changing again. It's delaying it again.
Right.
So
Sam, could we make it?
Is this going to delay the project, or are we going forward and you can put it on? We can add that one word that you said, this property, which makes sense. I don't see a problem with that, and we put it on at the end of the project on condition of the CFO.
Sam, can we make it a condition of approval that we'll add the language at the end?
We could do that. I can do that. Look, I don't want to see the applicant.
I think what the planning department's actually saying is to make the change, and with that change on the survey, then we're entitled to a building permit.
We've got one question.
You don't have to. In other words, you won't do another review. You're not.
No. We are, so that you understand. We're down to one question. Is it one question?
One question.
One question. And you get it.
But the one question we thought was answered a month ago when the two lawyers spoke.
Different question.
Yeah, I understand. But
you're going to like the question.
Well, presumably. They like the answer. Okay, no, I listen. I didn't mean to be glib before. I was.
I'm joking
but,
with you too.
Yeah, no, we will. I think we can, without putting another question up, agree that language, you can
just
do it the last thing you do. All right? Or
this. That's fair. Easy.
That comes from.
Is that, Tina, can we?
So are we saying you'll?
Well, let's answer the question first.
Well, no, and Tina, I think.
But I just want to make sure I understand. Yeah. Are we saying that we only have to change that to this and we can leave that second clause?
No, second clause out.
Second clause is out and we're changing it to this. Okay.
Well, let me go across the board. Lou, is that good for you?
I'm not sure I understand. What I proposed was that we make a condition of approval and then add it at the end.
Yeah, no, we're asking about,
No, we're just changing the language of, that appears on the plans. Here, take a look on the screen. Yeah, blow that up just a
We're
little bit.
saying we would remove
Everything
everything
after the
starting
word
with,
property.
Yes,
So you have
starting
every
with
word
which.
after which systems and stormwater,
Right.
that all goes. And it'll just say, the planning board approval relates only to the sewage treatment plant and not to overall stormwater drainage systems on this property, period, end of sentence.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, good. Everybody else?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Can
Is that what you need to know?
Yes.
Tina? Okay, very good. In that case, does anyone have any other comments?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead, Lou.
Yeah, I just want to just state for the record that, in my opinion, this is a very bittersweet ending to this. I think this storm water treatment plant is an absolute necessity, and the community has wanted this for a very long time. And I'm glad that it's finally coming to fruition. It's very important that this system be built. However, it's bittersweet because, and I think the applicant was prompted to build this plant because it gave them an added benefit of expanding the site, or already intensively built site on a small parcel of land on the ocean, which now will allow, with this stormwater, with this sewer treatment plant, it'll allow 73 units to be expanded, which is really not something that I'm very happy about. As far as the stormwater drainage plant system, there's no benefit for them to do it, and that's why they're not spending the money. If there was a benefit in the way that the sewer treatment plant had a benefit for them, they would have spent the $2 million. But that system is equally as important as the sewer treatment plant. They're right on the water. There's been a lot of complaints about the type of effluent that goes into the ocean from that small parcel. And this is a stormwater drainage system that needs to be built. And there's a consent order that was issued that called for them to draw up a plan for it and implement it. And it doesn't sound like they have any plans to do so. So that's what I'm very upset about. So I just wanted to put that in the record.
All right, that is where, this is the board's discussion, please. Okay.
I just want to correct something.
No. We're doing the board's discussion. Does anyone else have anything they want to add at this point?
no.
Okay, in that case, the question is the application ready for approval? Lou?
Yes.
Everybody else?
Yes. Yes.
6-0, the application is ready for approval. Thank you very much. We're now going to move on to the next matter. And you can thank me later.
Whether you like it or not.
All right, the next matter on the plate is Glen Valley. Thank you, folks, for coming out. We appreciate it. And we appreciate all that you've done on this application. The next matter up is Glen Valley Associates, and this is going to be Ava's premiere.
All right.
And we have, Tina, are you covering or is it Dan covering? Dan? Dan. All right, Dan, you're on. And now, I'm sorry, I saw somebody move to the front row. You're the applicant? Very well. And the folks behind you are with you? Not with you. Very well. Okay. In that case. You're on.
All right. Thank you. All right. So this is an application requesting final approval to subdivide an approximately 2.475 acre lot having frontage on Mulford Avenue, Woodlot Lane, and Old Northwest Road in East Hampton to 2 individual lots, both of which are approximately 40,425 square feet in size. A 26,945 square feet reserve area is also proposed, in addition to 2 5-foot wide highway easements already present on site. The site is zoned as a residence and located within the Suffolk County Pine Band regions, Groundwater Management Zone 5, and the town's Water Recharge Overlay District. And the site is considered to be 100% uncleared of natural vegetation per the town records. So in terms of issues to discussion, at the August 10th, 2022 Planning Board meeting, which is the last time it's reviewed, the Planning Board agreed to a negative declaration pursuant to SECRA in Chapter 128 of the Town Code. Therefore, at this time, no further SECRA review is required. In terms of the proposal itself, and I'm just going to pull the plans up quickly. So in terms of the proposal itself, there's been a slight changes to the application between the preliminary subdivision and the final subdivision, mainly per the Planning Board's previous condition of approval. The applicants have revised the subdivision to include a reserve area, as we've indicated, as opposed to a scenic easement area as previously proposed. I'll show you here, this was the original preliminary plan with the scenic easement area, and then we'll go back to the current one with the reserve area. In addition to this, however, there's also been a slight change to the sizes of the lots, mainly that during the previous review, they were slightly unequal, with one lot being larger than the other. During the current review, both lots are the equivalent in size. We have indicated the specific square footage of these lots, and although it looks significant, this really has to do with the reserve area being proposed as opposed to the scenic easement area. So generally, this is something that we found to be, the change to be de minimis and generally acceptable. However, there's going to be this, apologies. However, there is another indication with this, which I'll go talk about a little bit further on. So going forward from here, there is a preliminary, as part of their preliminary approval back from February 1st, 2023, there were several conditions required for conditions of approval for final subdivision approval. I'll go through these quickly, but the main point is the applicants have responded to most of these successfully. These include, written approval from Suffolk County Department of Health Services shall be obtained and provided to this board. As you can see from the map here, the Suffolk County has approved this, and it is contained within the files. And they have submitted it for the files. Second requirement is the map should be revised to illustrate the required 25% open space allotment as reserved area rather than scenic easement area, and that has already been resolved. Requirement 3 was that the map should be revised at final subdivision to include the title Final Subdivision Map of Glen Valley Associates Ltd., which has been added accordingly. Then the other comment has to do with, this was kind of the what's hanging out before, is that there was a requirement that this was, as part of the preliminary approval and the final approval, there was a requirement for modification of old file map, technically number 284, in order to get subdivide the existing parcel into 2 parcels as presented. The applicant has received town board approval, but that approval was specifically for the preliminary subdivision as previously configured, so it included the lots of slightly different sizes. But it does still show the reserve area. However, given that the lots have changed slightly, it's noted that both boards' approvals must be consistent, and therefore a new approval from the town board is required. So at this time, this is the one condition that hasn't been met. But besides for that, every other condition for the preliminary approval we found to be met and acceptable. Going forward, there was a few small other things. In terms of the design of the final subdivision plat, there are specific town code requirements for how this should be designed. The town engineer, consultant engineer, has reviewed the map and given several comments that said need to be about several revisions that are necessary in order to be ready for filing for the county. And again, as we've indicated before, the proposed subdivision map does show 5-foot wide easements to be dedicated to the town of East Hampton, and the map indicates the reserve area will also be dedicated to the town of East Hampton. Final subdivision approval should, if the planning board chooses to grant it, will therefore be contingent on easements and reserve area deeds, respectively, being approved as formed by the council to the planning board and recorded with the Suffolk County clerk. And proof of the recording will therefore be required. The Office of Fire Prevention reviewed this and found no issues. No further reviews required for firefighting purposes for the final subdivision. And finally, We note that based on the town code, there is ability for the planning board to waive public hearings for final subdivisions when there's no substantial difference between the preliminary and the final. As we indicated, the real difference between these two is generally, we found to be generally minimal. Therefore, we didn't find it large enough to warrant a new public hearing. For this application, however, something the planning board should agree on, and the specific language of this is included in the memo for the review. So ultimately, at this time, the application is complete, pretend revisions consistent with the town engineering consultant comments, and also the new town board UR map modification showing the lots as presented currently for the in front of the planning board. Once the application is complete, the planning board will need to determine if they will hold an additional public hearing on this application. That's it.
Okay, thanks again for that one. And does the applicant wish to be heard on this?
Good evening, members of the board. Brian Locascio with the Adam Miller Group, attorney for the applicant. I'm in agreement with the memo. I'm aware of the conditions I have to meet. I've been back and forth with staff about the discrepancy to the UR map. I will offer that this map was submitted, but it was pending a long time. My original application was for the prior preliminary layout. So it's, I understand the changes need to be made and we're working on it. So otherwise, I appreciate everyone's effort here and look forward to getting this over the finish line.
Very good. Ava?
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Brian. I do need to state for the record that I do have a family relationship with the Adam Miller Group. I don't feel that that at all conflicts with my opportunity and, me being objective to this application. Brian, you pretty much restated what I think we're all in agreement with here, that the UR application does need to be resubmitted for town board approval to match the current maps here. And the issues that are the differences here are pretty discrete. I don't feel that another public hearing is required on the planning board side, so I will leave it to the fellow board members to voice their opinions on that.
Very well. Thanks very much. Does anybody have anything they want to add on this application?
I agree that we don't need another public hearing.
That'll be the last question. Lou, do you have anything you want to add on this?
No, thank you, Sam.
Okay, all right. So we'll go through the questions and you can wait for the last one.
I'm ready.
Does the planning board find the proposed changes to the map for the final subdivision acceptable?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, thanks.
Yes.
Does the planning board require the applicant to revise the map consistent with town engineering consultant comments?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thought I saw Lou say yes. Okay. Does the planning board agree that conditions of final subdivision approval will be required, including the dedication, I think that means, for the highway easement and the transfer of the reserve area deed?
Yes.
That's yes all around. And finally, does the planning board wish to have a public hearing when the application is complete or defer that decision to that time?
I think we should defer. I think we just say no.
We say no, we can say, we do not, well, I'll break it into two questions. And if we get a no on the first one, we don't need to go to the second. Does the board wish to have a public hearing when the application is complete?
No.
No, Lou?
No.
There you go. Thanks very much. Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is the Hampton's Church. Since I believe that Ms. Vale is here for the other application, that would leave you for that one. And Tina, you've got that, and Ed, you've got that.
Yes.
All right. So.
Where's Chris? Where's the tall guy?
Oh, he's not feeling well today.
Go around.
Yeah, so it seems.
Oh.
All right, Dan. Thanks.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Tina Lagren from the Planning Department. This is Chris Stecker's application. I'm covering it for him. Chris is unfortunately not feeling well this evening and was still going to come and present, and I had to ask him to take it. The night off. He was dedicated about it, so that's great. This is the site plan special permit evaluation for 69 Industrial Road in Waynescott, the Hampton's Church. The site is highlighted on the screen now. There's an existing structure as well as parking area and some staging and construction areas in the rear of the property. The site plan application is submitted to expand the existing parking lot, legalize an existing maintenance and storage area, site 3 storage containers, and relocate a playground area. The proposal also includes exterior lighting and a parking lot expansion. The application was previously scheduled for board review on November 6th, but the application was adjourned when the applicant wasn't present, and we have not changed the evaluation. This is just the same evaluation we were going to provide on that day. The subject parcel is zoned commercial industrial and is approximately 1.89 acres and contains an existing church facility. It is within the Suffolk County Pine Barrens region, the South Fork Special Groundwater Protection Area, and Groundwater Management Zone 5. Moving on to, I'm just going to bring up the site plan so you can see exactly what's proposed, and I will start going through the issues in the memo. The proposal involves, the action is a type 2 under SECRA in Chapter 128 of the Town Code. That is our suggestion to you, and the category we believe it fits in is listed in the memo. Regarding existing structures and uses, that's the first area of focus of the review this evening. The site has an existing semi-public facility, which is a church, right? The church is categorized as a semi-public facility in our code. A site visit on October 11th showed that there's an existing maintenance and storage area and other structures on the code that are not on the site's approved certificate of occupancy. So I'm just going to show some of those. So the maintenance of storage area that is proposed to be legalized in the application is shown here. There were a lot of elements kind of present there, a construction trailer, construction materials of various sorts, trucks, a vehicle parked in and around the location. So we did want to ask the applicant to clarify what the existing use of that site is and how it relates to the church use. We did note that the area did not seem to be present on aerial imagery from 2015 and 2016. So prior to 2015, so it was constructed during that time, which involved the clearing of woodland. And the existing maintenance area is, as you can see, I'm just going to skip the aerials to the submitted site plan to show that the existing area is larger than what's shown as proposed on the plan. So we do just want to make sure we understand what exactly the applicant is proposing for that area. There is also, as you can see, sorry to skip around so much, but I just want to show the board the information we have. There's a roof structure in part of the maintenance storage area existing, not clear what the fate of that is going to be. And then you can see an existing play area, which is within the fence kind of surrounded by the construction staging area. So we did have questions just about exactly what's going to happen with all of this and if it was shown accurately on these plans. Moving on to coverage. The building and lot coverage on the calculation on the plan are shown as estimates. So we do just want to ask the applicant to make sure that all that information is accurate. The site is quite close to their limits of coverage, and we want to make sure that we have that information correctly. The parking lot is being expanded, but at the same time, the coverage on the form was proposed to be reduced. So we wanted to make sure that that was very clearly described in narrative form and backed up with the plans. Regarding setbacks for the proposed configuration, there's 2 storage containers proposed, and they are located outside the building envelope. Excuse me. The plan is showing the accessory setback line in a fashion that's not accurate. In the CI zone, The accessory setbacks are the same as the principal, except as waived by the planning board during site plan review. It's typically appropriate to find a conforming location for those structures if one is present, if one is available. So we do want to ask the applicant to reconsider that. Regarding parking, some of the details on the plan were not consistent with what the code requires, and those details are listed in the memo. We are also awaiting comments from the town consulting engineer, who I'm sure will opine on this matter. The submission did note that the ADA signage was going to be removed from the parking spaces, and we did want to make sure the applicant understood that that wasn't permissible in a scenario like this with the amount of parking that they have on site. We did also want to make sure that we had a better understanding of the extent of the existing parking area. We did not get a existing condition survey for this site, and that is one of the things we're asking the applicant to work on for future submissions, so we can see the precise differences between existing conditions and proposed conditions. Regarding drainage and stormwater control, there was small inconsistencies between the drainage calculations and the information shown on the plans, and we do need to make sure that the elevations are on the drainage structures so we can ensure that they will function as appropriate, and those comments also need to be addressed. A comprehensive lighting plan that meets all the requirements of the planning board's guidelines needs to be submitted, and those are listed in the memo. Architectural Review Board approval of changes to the facade of the building would have been constructed, would have been required. I mean, we looked at some aerial imagery and showed a difference of what the facility looks like now as opposed to what it looked like in the past, and it appears to have changed without approval from the ARB, which would be required. Other approvals, ARB approval would not only be required for the facade change, but also for the changes in the overall site plan and the new structures on site with the maintenance and storage area and fencing would also be within their jurisdiction. And Suffolk County Planning Commission review is also going to be required because it's within the Pine Barrens and within a mile of the airport. Regarding the necessary elements of a site plan, 255-650 of the town code that have not been addressed with the current proposal materials, I'll go through those quickly. And I will also just show, oh, we don't have elevations, we don't really, sorry. So I'll go through those. These are listed in the memo. I'll go through them quickly. We are missing ground elevations for some of the structures because the site's nearly level. We don't think we need a lot of the information, but we do need it for the drainage. Lot area and exact dimensions for the new features of the site need to be provided and need to be confirmed as they compare to the existing facilities. The dimensions of the property need to be accurately shown, as well as the setbacks need to be accurately shown. And the plans need to determine if the mobile construction trailers and other features are going to stay or what's going to happen with those. The layout of the proposed parking areas also needs to be clarified. Dimensions for the ADA accessible spaces, dimensions for the driveway and navigation aisles. And it's important, you know, these comments may get altered as we understand better the use of the maintenance and storage area. If there's going to be regular vehicle access, we're going to make sure that adequate turning and drive aisles are provided for those areas. The lighting, we've already said that lighting is required. Existing sanitary and proposed sanitary systems, those were not shown clearly on the plans, but they should be submitted. And also, we would note that depending on the use of the maintenance and storage area, that could potentially alter the sanitary calculation if this is a use that is generating wastewater flow in any way. It's not clear at this time, but there was a mobile construction trailer on there. It's not clear what the use of that feature is. Item J, again, we need topography or elevations for the drainage, natural features. So we note that wooded areas were cleared from the site to put in the maintenance and storage area and the lawn. We don't really have the extent of what was altered, but we would like to see on existing conditions if there is any natural vegetation left that could be preserved with this new site plan in place. And item N, elevations will be required for any new proposed structures, but it's not clear if there are any, aside from the playground structure. So in conclusion, the applicant is being asked to clarify the project description and provide a narrative that explains the use of the maintenance and storage area, including the type of use, how the space is utilized, materials being stored there and their purpose. The relation to the church should also be clearly understood, if any. And they should confirm if it's going to be used for parking, right? Because that really will change how we look at it in terms of safety and navigation. Regarding parking and drainage, the applicant's being asked to clarify the pavement and drainage designs and specify the existing parking lot area as well as how much they're expanding it, and just clarify the coverage calculations. And that concludes my comments.
Thanks very much.
I have a question for you. Where is the relocated playground on this plan? Is that it right there?
That's, right here.
Okay.
But isn't it, I mean, how far from the quote unquote old playground is it? Isn't that the same area?
It does look pretty similar.
Yeah.
I'll just go to, it's kind of right
Behind
now
the
in
fence,
the middle.
yeah.
Well, actually, let me look at the aerial.
It's in the middle of the fenced area.
No, it's, okay.
Right now, it's in the middle of kind of two storage areas. This is it, and it's behind a fence.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty close to where.
Does the applicant like to be heard?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Marco Penafiel, and my last name is Penafiel. I'm the applicant for the Hampton Church project. This project was submitted as a preliminary set between all the back and forth in my visits to the planning department. We were trying to propose the storage area that you are seeing right there, and with that we are also trying to propose the driveway expansion and the relocated playground. From the document, we agree in all of the revisions that we have to make, starting from the, There's an existing survey that wasn't presented in the first submission, so we can share that with you so you can see clearly what is existing right now. And with that, all the proposed calculations are just an average, because we just wanted to know first what is doable and feasible here. This is a nonprofit. This is our church, Hampton Church, a nonprofit entity. So we're just trying to get the resources, and all the professionals that participate in this project are not charging for their services. So we are just trying to coordinate all that. For the coverage calculations, we can revise all that, make the pertinent corrections. The playground is we have just moved a couple feet to the right. The roof storage structure that you see all the way at the end of the property, we can remove all that. That was constructed just temporary to protect all the construction material you see over there. That construction material was donated from members of the church, from construction companies. The trucks that you're seeing over there, those are trucks that serve the church. Benalla Construction, as you see on the church, is a company that provide services at no charge to the church. If the church needs manpower, they are there. They provide a weekly maintenance to the church as needed. So that's why you're going to see the trucks in their property a lot. The parking, we were just trying to propose an improvement, just trying to expand based on the members that the church have. If that's not doable or feasible, we can adjust and just maintain the actual driveway. The actual driveway is not in well conditions. That's why we're just trying to improve it for the well-being of the property and the members of the church. The drainage and stormwater control, we can make the revision with the pertinent professionals. surveyors and engineers. For the lighting, we can change the specs of the lighting. We agreed that we have to go to the architectural review board to present the change of the facade because that was due to maintenance. The brick that was at the cladding at that moment was leaking. They have to waterproof it. That was the easiest and cheapest way to cover the church, and they are just waiting for the resources and donations to continue with the project. For the officers and private prevention comments, the ADA signs, there's some missing information. We're going to maintain the signs. We're going to sign everything as needed. The lighting, all that, all the comments and observation that you have, we agree on all that. We're going to include the contour line. We have to coordinate these with the surveyor and engineer. As I said, for most of these corrections, we agree on that. The church and the parts involved are willing to do all in their power just to make all these compliant. Finally, we're just trying to get an advice from you or some information because this isn't clear. It's not a common situation. So we're just trying to know if we can keep those 3 containers and at the end all the way at the end of the property inside the fence. We know and we want to comply with all the requirements, the fence, the setbacks. We just those 3 containers are just to storage materials and just general storage from the church. That will be pretty much it.
Thank you very much.
Hi.
Ed.
Good. Thanks, Tina, and thank you very much for your explanation. And I'm glad to hear that you have taken in the things that need to be done to come into compliance. And I'm glad to know that you've got an existing condition survey. You understand what we needed in terms of the detail around parking, pavement, drainage, all those kinds of things. I know that you'll work with the planning department to set those things straight. I guess the question that I have is kind of in regards to what's being stored in that storage area, right? What the purpose of that is. I mean, you've sort of said it's someone who's in the contracting business who helps out at the church. But there's a construction trailer in there. There's some heavy equipment in there. There's some large trucks. There's a lot of stone that's in there. I mean, is it being used as a storage area for that contractor? Is it being used for that purpose?
Yes, the construction trailer that you see in the photos, that one contains a lot of landscaping equipment, which is used in the church. The trailer is donated temporarily by the construction company. So they are the ones who do the landscaping, snow removal, outdoor maintenance, all that the church needs. So all the equipment, the outdoor equipment is in there, mostly landscape equipment. For the other containers, here with me is Mr. Bob Kelly, who is a member of the church. He can answer all the questions for the containers and their storage. And that will be pretty much it. I mean, the construction company is present all the time at the church because they give their services at no charge for them.
Okay, but yeah. So, but is the stone?
Oh,
that you're seeing there, for
that's
example?
from the if some members, or including Bernal Construction, they donate these materials to the church. Most of them have been used inside the church or outside. So if we have to remove them, we can do that. We don't agree. We don't have. I mean, at least we just have a place or just a certain area, and they can have all this material. Some of them have to be covered. That's what you see the roof structure. So, I mean, you can maintain and preserve those materials if just until someone needs them.
So, I mean, the difference here is if it's materials that are going to be used in a construction project on the church property, that's one thing. If a contractor is actually using it as his storage area, that's another thing.
No,
right? No, to what?
The construction company is donating the materials that they haven't used in their works. So they put it there for the church, and the church can dispose from them. So they can give them.
Does the church have specific plans to use the stones that we see there in the building, redevelopment, construction of the church itself? Do those plans exist?
Sorry.
Bo Kelly, I'm a board member, one of the board members of the church. Kelly, Kelley. Do you need my address? Or
No.
That was for the earlier thing. So here's kind of what happens. That people will donate things because you donate to nonprofits. There's leftover materials. Some of that stuff stays because we may need it someday. Some of it goes. We don't have any particular use today for that particular stone, but the construction company does donate things, and again, it sort of comes and goes as needed. So.
I'm sorry, I mean to cut you off. Is that it?
That's it.
I think the fundamental question here is the church's facility being used for the construction company to essentially store the materials that the construction company uses in its business?
Understood. Yeah, no, the primary use for this area is going to be to store and to do the kind of consistent renovations. There are things that do come and go. I mean, we're a church. I'm not going to say that stone is being used for that building. It's not, but it is something that somebody donated. Hey, we understand you guys are doing construction. Here's stuff. Same thing that happens with like the food pantry. People give us stuff for the food pantry. It's not necessarily stuff we use, so it moves in and out. So
what happens if it's not used for the church?
Right. So then it moves on. You know, the idea
in the commercial sense of the word.
We'll get it off of the property.
But I'm saying is what I'm getting at is it a warehouse? Is it a storage area?
I understand the question. And again, as a board member of the church, we're here to comply with the town and to do the things we have to. I'm certainly not here to obfuscate and have a secret storage house for a construction company in the back of the church. That doesn't do anybody any good. So realistically, no. I mean, are there things that are back there? Could we be better at maintaining an inventory of what's in there? Probably. But as we stand here today, with the idea is to try to get all of this stuff cleared up with the town, get it all cleared up even for the church, and then figure out a plan as to how to operate going forward so that we're in compliance with the town.
All right. So because to get there, you may very well find that the construction company won't be able to keep all that stone and all that heavy equipment and all the other things that are, hanging around there right now.
Yeah, and some of those things have already moved on. I think there's a picture of a car in that mix. That car is out of there. The storage trailer, again, I mean, this is a project, as you might imagine, for a nonprofit that has had sort of fits and starts over the years that, it started and then stopped and started and stopped. Mark had mentioned prior that, kind of sealing the building and coming up with another way to keep the outside on the outside of the building, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Even that was something that started in fits and starts. So, having that, we'll call it budgetary restrictions along the way, it has kind of limited us on how we can do things. But I mean, ultimately what we'd like to have there is the storage area for the things to maintain the church, and all the other things when the construction is finished will go on their merry way.
I would just say that, so I understand that. But I do think we need to kind of make it clear that if things are kind of coming in and they're not going to be used for the purposes of the church's construction projects, they do need to move along, right? They do need to move
100%.
And there are a couple of pieces of heavy equipment in there right now, construction trailer and a bunch of things that I think are pretty clearly not part of your plan for renovating this property.
So the construction trailer, I think in particular, is one that I think right now we do have. I think that is where we're keeping some of the lawn mowers and things, for the lawn maintenance. But if people want it to move on, then it'll move on.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Do you have anything else?
No, I think that's it. So just to be clear, there is one final thing. Just to be clear about the 3 containers that you want to propose. Is there some reason why they can't be put inside the building envelope?
Yeah, we can move them. We're just looking for advice. That was the accessory. I mean, it is considered a roof structure, but we were just considering as an accessory building. So accessory building has to be between the setbacks for the principal building, so we can move them. I mean, we can work with all the requirements. We can put the wood lines, we can put the lawn where you want, and we can keep the parking as it is. We just we're just trying to make it better for all the members. If some things have to be gone, the stone, the other trucks, we can do that. I mean, we're just looking for advice. We have been preparing all these, putting a lot of effort. The engineer, myself, and a lot of people involved in these, just trying to see where we can get the lights, donate the lights. So that's the specs that we get. We can change that, but it's taking time for us. We just want to make it better and make it compliant. That's all we want to know. If we have to remove something, we're going to do it. We just have to have a space or an area in which we can have those 3 containers, or at least the trailers, so we can the church can save their lawnmowers, maintenance, or other materials that sometimes they're going to need inside. And for the architectural review board, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to propose where we want to do outside, but for now the church doesn't have the resources to complete the work. All the most of the materials there were donated, so they are just keep working as they have the resources, the people who can work there, and mostly as you saw in all construction, all the manpower is from them. So if you're going to see their trucks, they know they have to move it, they'll do it, but it's just they just want to maintain the church at no cost. That's pretty much it.
We share that goal. Okay, we want to see you get compliant, and we'll all work towards that goal. Does any other board members have any other questions or comments that they want to raise?
I just had a comment about figure 3 of the roofed storage structure. I went back there recently, and I'm not a structural engineer, but that looks like it's going to fall down. So, you have a comment on that?
Yeah. For lack of a better term, I think this has become a little bit of Frankenstein's monster. And that, like, it started with one container and then it sort of expanded a little bit. So, I mean, we have every intention on getting rid of that. The overhang was only there, as a temporary thing to keep some materials out of the weather. But it's gotten a little long in the tooth. So it's probably time to.
Also, my daughter has donated many Girl Scout cookies to the church back there.
You
don't have to recuse yourself.
It's probably the best use of Girl Scouts cookies is to donate them.
Bruce, did you have something?
Yeah, I just had a question. And the one site plan, the back corner, that back upper corner, the maintenance, is that what that says? Maintenance? But what's the goal for that area? What's the church's use for that area?
I mean, it's really just a storage area for, things that we need for the building. So, I mean,
the church doesn't have a shed or other structure. Currently, what they have right now are those 3 containers with their storage, their belongings. So we're just trying to keep what they have until, if there's in the future, if they can propose some kind of an accessory building and where they can storage all of their belongings. Probably that's what they're going to propose in the future. But for now, all they have is just those 3 containers. And you're going to,
is that a fenced in area? It looks like it's fenced in with a gate or something.
It's fenced in currently, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, right now there's no, you saw the pictures, there's no playground at all. So, there's an old swing set and all that. So we're just trying to keep these containers away from the members, from the kids, and just try to have a nice lawn area. That's very much. It's just to keep it separated.
So why do you need such a big area for 3 containers?
So a machine can get in and probably move it when they need it.
Move what?
Move the containers, take them out. In the future, if they want to do that, if we have to make it compliant, if we have to put ones against each other, we can do that. We're just looking for advice. If we can keep those 3 containers, if we have to put it together, we are able to do that. We are just trying to maintain them, if that's possible.
I think we're using maybe advice when guidance may be the better word. We're just looking for some guidance here as to
is going to continue looking like these pictures. It's fenced in. Is your intent on still accepting putting it there? And
I think the fence is there, just more to kind of protect both directions, right? We don't necessarily want children climbing into construction material, and we don't really necessarily want it walking off either. So I think in the future, once the construction's done, that, you know, how that would look, you know, we're certainly up to any.
So the church is still under construction?
Well, it's not necessarily, we're getting ready to redo the parking lot and redo the siding. You know, those are kind of the next big things for the church. The parking lot is in disrepair. I mean, it's essentially modified gravel, you know, at this point. It was paved. It's less paved than paved, I think currently might be the better way to
Most of the
address
material, they can dispose them right away. We're just trying to look for guidance, how we can keep the containers where the church is going to clean it up. They're going to remove what they have to remove. They just want to make it compliant. Just clean it up. Once all the renovations and improvements are done, meaning the facade, meaning the parking area, meaning the lighting, so they can actually remove, and maybe in the future, as I said.
So if you look at those pictures right there, the middle one might be the better example. You know, you'd pointed out what the building looked like before. It was kind of a beige-ish color, but, you know, some pointing issues with the brick and the block and some of that stuff. So I think Marco had mentioned earlier that the fastest solution was to paint it, to kind of seal it that way. You know, as far as the waterproofing goes, that's why it went from that beige-ish color to black. The intent is not to have a
black shirt.
No friendly way. That's not what I wanted to say. Yeah. But the building itself will not be black when it's all done. It'll probably be clad in that gray material that you can kind of see on the front. Just seeing kind of how that looks. But again, ultimately, we'll make whatever application when that time comes, you know, as appropriate.
Is that it? Do you have anything?
For now.
Lou, do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add, you know, I guess I'm repeating what a lot of the other board members have said. I'm a little perplexed as to what exactly where the church is moving towards. I don't understand if the construction company is going to remain there. What exactly are they going to store? I know that right now they're storing the stones for possible landscaping use on the church. But, you know, long-term, what is that storage area? And I think, you know, Bruce started to question the gentleman about this. What exactly are you going to store there? What does the church need that space to store once all the work that you're doing will utilize the stone and material that's being stored there now? And will a construction company maintain their trailer there in the long term? How do you see this site looking long term, and what exactly will you be storing in that large storage area long term?
Well, I think long term, it's really more of, I would envision that area would shrink. I mean, the construction company does do a lot of the common area maintenance for us. They do a lot of plowing of the snow in the parking lot. They take care of, you know, mowing the grass, doing, you know, that kind of stuff. That's part of what they what they donate to the church. Long term, though, I don't think it's going to be looking like an industrial storage facility. Certainly, you know, that's why we're here, you know, is to talk about what's acceptable and what's not, and we're going to do what's acceptable, and we're not going to do what's not.
But I'm sorry, did the construction company plow the driveway, and in exchange for that work, you allow them to park their trucks in the back?
So no, I mean, there's no agreement, you know, there's just sometimes they bring trucks there and leave them there. Sometimes they take them. I mean, again, it's really, they come out with the trucks. That's how they operate, right? By truck. They're a construction company. So
you can understand where it might appear that there's a quid pro quo there.
Yeah, I understand. And we're not, and I'm not trying to sound evasive either, you know, at the same time.
You know, at the end of the day, it's, you know, you either have a church or you have a church and a construction company.
Right.
And it sounds to me like you want to have a church and not a church and a construction company.
Correct.
So whatever's there now, at some point down the road, won't be there.
Correct.
And what I would suggest, and board members can agree or not, that you firm up your final vision and work with the planning department to make sure that you get that final vision done in a way that is, as you've used the word, compliant with the law.
Yeah.
So the only other thing I would ask is, or raise as an issue, is the playground. Am I correct in assuming that it hasn't been used in quite a while?
No. The playground actually does get a little bit. I mean, there's not much of a playground there at present. Prior to it just being what it is now, there was a whole swing set in there, and there was a jungle gym and a whole running up and down ladders and all that stuff. But that structure was no longer structurally sound, so we got rid of that.
Okay.
And maybe in the 2015 version of it.
I didn't walk into the playground area because you have the gate there or the fence, but it doesn't look like you've got rubber padding down underneath that.
No, but it does have like wood chips. I don't know if they're so.
I don't know if that's quite state of the art, you know.
It's good enough
playground.
for us.
Yeah,
It's good enough for us, right?
A little older, you know. The world has changed, and
a great stickball court.
You know. I grew up playing on an asphalt basketball court that I would never allow when my kids were little.
I just want to say one final thing, which really, sort of emphasizes what Sam just said, which is that really think about the future state of this, right? Not what do we do with all the stuff that we have temporarily here? What do you really want this thing to look like in the, going forward, right? And that's what we should be planning toward, and you should be working with the planning department on, right? Because right now we're all struggling with this, stone material and big trucks and all this kind of stuff that's there, and you understand this cannot appear to be a storage area for a construction company, right?
Well, more than not appear, it just can't be, right?
It can't be.
That's right. That's right.
So I'll interject though. I mean, it's a commercially zoned site. You're allowed two uses.
Yeah, well, that's
the other
option. To
option.
have a storage yard, that would be a use that you're adding to the property. It would just have to be appropriately configured and very clear how the area would be utilized, so we could all plan around those parameters.
Well, that's what I meant.
I think there might have been some confusion.
That's what I meant. Like,
They were, referencing that this was a preliminary site plan application, but it was submitted as a regular site plan application. So I think maybe there was some confusion there. We reviewed like the detail, but if it was a preliminary, so I think, Sam, you're right, that we should probably talk to these folks a little bit offline and help.
Right.
And get this out a little bit
straight.
And, and if, the future vision includes having, a contractor there,
then you can have it. But like I say,
that's another
I
discussion.
mean, it may have sounded a little, sarcastic. It's a church or it's a church on the construction site, but that really is your choice. I mean, if you want to have, for whatever reason, a construction site in this parcel, you can do it, but you got to do it the right way.
100%. And again, that's why we're here. We're just trying to.
And I'm sorry, I skipped over this during the review, but the lawn area does seem to be proposed for the last area of trees that were not cleared on the property. So I'd really want you to think hard about that. And I'm sorry that I skipped that earlier, but
that's a good point.
The woods that were in the maintenance area now were kind of cleared without the benefit of permits, and we'd want to prevent further clearing if it was, feasible with the plans.
There are beetles doing a lot of clearing at the moment.
Yeah, well, everywhere.
Welcome to town.
Worth noting that some of the trees that are there,
I know,
are hardly being held up by the tree.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anybody have anything else on this? Lou, do you have anything you want to add?
Oh, thank you. No.
Okay, thanks very much. Save your voice. You've got one resolution, Okay. All right, folks, we'll look forward to seeing you again. Thank you. Okay, finally.
Now across the street.
Across the street. At 54 Industrial Road. It's called 54 Industrial Road Owners, so I guess that's the name of the application. All right? Yeah.
Okay, again, I'm covering for Chris On the 54 Industrial Road owners, site plan special permit evaluation. The site is located on Industrial Road, literally right across the street from the site we were just looking at. The site plan is submitted to redevelop the subject property by demolishing the existing building and constructing a 2-story self-storage building with an office, reception area, and an unfinished basement. So this is the location. I'm going to bring up the plans. So here is the site plan. Access is from Industrial Road. It would be a approximately 39,000 square foot building in the site. The planning department has reviewed this as a preliminary site plan application on 3 separate occasions, and the board discussed one of those. The other 2 were adjourned for various reasons. The floor plans for the proposal that we're going to talk about this evening are consistent with the ones from the second preliminary application that we reviewed and the board discussed on in January 2024. The site is located in the commercial industrial zoning district and is also within the Suffolk County Groundwater Protection Area, Groundwater Zone 5, and the Suffolk County Pine Barrens. It's surrounded on all sides by CI zone land and is adjacent to the East Hampton Town Airport to the north, as you saw. We have attached some of the preliminary site plan comments that we made to this report. Some of the comments that appear, as I'll talk through them, were made on previous applications, and we do ask that when the applicants responding that they look at not only the comments we're making tonight, but those previous ones and ensure that their next submission is responsive to the comments that have been issued by the department and the board on a few occasions. Before I start going through the issues and memos, since this is the first time the board has seen this in a while, I'm just going to flip through some of the plans so the board can see what's proposed. So this is the site plan. There's a, exterior kind of green spaces that are going to be landscaped, or some natural vegetation will be preserved. The building is located within the appropriate setbacks, and there's parking all around the exterior. There is a proposed, it looks like, driveway down to the basement. And then there are floor plans. This is the basement floor plan. It's unfinished. The use of the basement's not clear. That's one of the things I'll go through as we talk through the review. Then the first floor plan has large drive-in units, and the second floor plan has smaller conditioned units. And here's the elevations, just of, kind of simple facade storage building. You can see the slope driveway to the basement. So I just wanted to show those on a landscaping plan. Some very schematic renderings have been provided. The landscape, this is the lighting. The landscape plan is also here. So I will now go through the comments in the memo. We do understand that the site has been issued violations from code enforcement, which is why we do encourage the applicant to move through the site plan process as quickly as possible to provide a site that is compliant. The action is unlisted pursuant to SECRA, Chapter 128 of the Town Code. Once a acceptable EAF is provided by the applicant, we suggest that the planning board is the appropriate lead agency. We made several comments on the EAF in the memo regarding some of the discrepancies between lot coverage and some other information on the site setting that wasn't accurately reflected in the form we received. So the applicant should revise that and resubmit for our review. Regarding the uses and project description, the proposal is for a self-storage warehouse, self-storage warehouse, and an accessory office that would be on the first floor. The town code does not have a defined use for self-storage, but other similar proposals have been reviewed as unlisted non-nuisance industry, which is provided in our code. And so this type of use would be consistent with past practice of the board in recent history. We do want the applicant to provide clarification just, what they envision for the storage units, but especially the use of the basement. The reason I ask this is because the basement is unfinished, but there is that driveway to the basement. Such a configuration is very atypical for the town, and brings up a few planning implications that weren't really explored in this submission. There's an external drive aisle that's going to need to meet appropriate navigation and have drainage. There's also considerations about, navigation, ventilation, et cetera, within the basement itself. So we do want the applicant to explain how they're going to utilize that area, and then we can kind of review it from there. Regarding dimensional conformance, the building, and this is a comment that was made previously, the building does seem to conform to the CI zone dimensional regulations, except that there is a height restriction based on the proximity to the airport. It's located somewhere in the rear of the site. They've shown it unclearly on previous surveys, and the height of the building doesn't seem to comply based on what we're piecing together, but we are asking for the text of the easement itself, as well as an accurate survey that shows the existing conditions with the location of the easement shown, so we can determine whether or not the building would be compliant. But it's important to note, like, if the building height violates that airport easement, what you're looking at may not be feasible in terms of size and configuration. Regarding parking, the parking proposed is 30 spaces. And because this is a use that's not listed in the code, we do not have a parking requirement in the code for it. We referenced other site plans approved for similar use to review the adequacy of the parking. The most recent one that we looked at was Twin Forks Moving and Storage, which had 13 spaces for 79,000 square feet, so a lot less parking for a lot more storage. So what the applicant has proposed is more than, way more than that, and seems to be adequate, but that really is dependent on clarifications regarding the use of the site, what kind of storage is happening in the basement, if any, et cetera. The dimensions also have to be shown for the parking, and that could be a future site plan clarification. The navigation aisles have been shown, but for the site itself, but the driveway down to the basement does need to be clarified. The fire marshal has reviewed the site with respect to ADA requirements and found that it's not compliant, and the comments from the fire marshal were attached, so those will need to be addressed. Regarding sanitary systems, as I mentioned earlier, this is in groundwater zone 5. That has a 300 gallon per day per acre estimated value for density flow. Based on the size of the building and the generally industrial use of 0.4 flow rate for a type of building like this, the proposal would exceed the Suffolk County standard. So we would need the applicant to explain how they're going to handle that with the health department. Either they would need a variance based, or they would have to have grandfathered flow. It's not clear if either one of those cases has been examined by them, so they should explain. Regarding drainage and stormwater control, there's a discrepancy in the amount of dry wells that are indicated as required and the ones that are provided, so that will need to be settled in future iterations of the application. And it's also important to note that this location is within the MS4 covered area of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. The planning department recommends that the draft SWIP, Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, is submitted with the next set of requirements, so we can ensure that the drainage systems proposed meet all the requirements that are applicable, not just local, but the state requirements. The outdoor lighting plan needs some work as outlined in the memo, that it exceeds the Kelvin guidelines. That should be addressed. The landscaping plan The necessary elements of a landscaping plan were provided. We did just want to ask that there's some clarification about what existing vegetation is going to remain. We did not get an existing condition survey again, and do want a accurate survey to see what areas will remain untouched and what new vegetation will be installed. And as always, if you can preserve native vegetation, it's appropriate to do so. We already talked about the fire marshal. Regarding necessary elements of site plans, there are several necessary elements that we are recommending that the board require for this. And they're listed in the memo in detail. The ground elevation for the proposed building is shown, and we do want to make sure that the ground elevations and drainage elevations are all appropriate, so this information should be clarified. Dimensions of property line setbacks and dimensions between each building. The property line setbacks are missing. There's an existing transformer in the front of the site, so we should get that. And the applicant should also demonstrate if there's an approval for that or if it needs to be legalized with this application. Transformers right there. It seems that might be within an EPA. Is it? I was just going to say, if it's within an easement, so yep, that's fine, just making sure. So the location of all easements on the property does need to be shown, including the airport height easement. The layout of the existing and proposed parking and loading areas should be clarified in a few ways. Lengths, width to the basement garage, curb cuts, the computations for parking, should be shown. I'm not sure that they are. Okay, if they are, that's fine. And then drainage structures and specifications are going to be reviewed by the town consulting engineer. So whatever discrepancies there may be a longer list of comments to address. There is an existing business sign, and it appears to be in the right of way. So that would need to be relocated, approved by ARB and then relocated to within the property line of the applicant. So that would be a compliance issue. Existing fencing isn't shown, and we just want to make sure if those are on the existing properties. So there is some clarification regarding that could be provided in the survey. The lighting plan should be updated with the comments we made about the lighting. The existing sewage disposal system wasn't shown, and as we said, we do want to clarify the issue regarding the sanitary density. The topography is going to be needed to the extent that we can ensure that the drainage works. Plans to indicate what trees are going to remain for item N, from item O. All of the easements should be shown. Other agencies to be involved: Suffolk County Department of Health, the Architectural Review Board, Fire Marshal, and Suffolk County Planning Commission referrals also can be required for the same reasons we said earlier, because of the Pine Barrens and the East Hampton Town Airport. To conclude, we'd like the applicant to clarify the proposed uses, especially of the proposed basement, to ensure that whether or not it will be considered GFA and what planning issues may arise associated with an underground garage, which is not common in the town. The applicant should provide a copy of the height restriction easement. Revisions to the EAF are required. And we're asking the applicant to review not only this memo, but the past memos to respond to all the comments that have been made. Thank you.
Thank you for that thorough report on this very big application. Well, not the biggest, but pretty big.
Good evening, board members. I'm Liz Vail. I'm with the law firm of Greenberg Traurig. We're at 2317 Montauk Highway in Bridgehampton, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, 54 Industrial Road Owners LLC, for the application of Wayne Scott Self-Storage. Thank you for your report, even though Christopher wasn't here. I know, I appreciate you covering.
Thank you.
So we could move forward tonight. As Tina stated, this is a 1.84 acre property. It's 80,000 square feet, where 40,000 square feet of lot area is required in the commercial industrial zoning district. So it's important to remember that this is a double the lot area. We are proposing a 2-story self-storage building The proposed building has a 19,827 square foot footprint and will be 39,654 square feet with 89 storage units for self-storage use. The application complies with zoning entirely. No variances are required in connection with this application. And I am in receipt of the December 4th memo. And I just want to respond to a couple of things. We do have some work to do, obviously, with the planning department before this board, and we look forward to that. But first, with respect to the basement, I think the report mentioned the basement like 8 times with respect to whether it would generate additional trips for traffic, whether it would add to the GFA. It is on the plan on page A101, sheet number A101, as an unfinished basement. That's what it's proposed to be. That's the proposed use of the basement. An unfinished basement, it will not be used as a private garage. It will not be used as self-storage as part of the 2 stories above. It could be used as an unfinished basement would be used for mechanicals or any storage of the actual property business owner of the self-storage themselves, like I would use my basement maybe, but it's not going to be used in connection with the business of self-storage. It's not going to be a private garage. It's not going to be leased out as a separate entity at all. So I think a lot of questions about the basement are really speculative, and it's certainly well-settled law that planning boards are not permitted to speculate that applicants would break the law or deviate from proposed plans. It's well settled. More than 30 years ago, it was determined by the New York State Court of Appeals, Baskin versus Zoning Board of Appeals of the town of Ramapo, 40 New York 2nd, 942. They stated the standard is not the designated or potential use, but the actual use, because otherwise the effect would be to visit upon the present users and occupiers anticipatory punishment for future wrongdoing. So that's the standard. You have to look at the actual proposed use, not speculative proposed uses. So the plans do speak for themselves with respect to the basement. With respect to the EAF, we are submitting a new EAF. We've done the mapper, the EAF mapper, so we have that additional information for the planning department. With respect to traffic was brought up. A self-storage use is really typically very low level of traffic. The number of trips per day is typically 7 cars per 100 units. Again, we're only proposing 89. So the amount of traffic generated would be really minimal, and we can provide that information to you. Again, this is going to be a self-storage. The building and lot coverage was questioned. The subject property is 80,000 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required. Again, it's double the lot area. The permitted lot coverage is 75% in the commercial industrial zoning district, or 60,000 square feet. We're proposing a lot coverage of 67.5%, or 54,000 square feet, which complies with the code. The permitted building coverage on site is 50%, or 40,000 square feet. We're proposing 19,827 square feet, or 24.8%, well under the permitted 50% in the code. They did mention in the planning report holding us to a little bit of a different standard about what's in the physically disturbed area. That's not in the definitions of building coverage or lot coverage. So I would refer you to that, what's in the code, in the zoning code. With respect to the flow calculations, we do need to update our plans to show you that we comply with the proposed Suffolk County Department of Health Services flow calculations. We have done the calculations, and we believe we do comply based on, I guess there's a footnote to the sanitary code, Suffolk County Health Department standards for approval of plans and construction for sewage disposal systems other than single-family residences. It's table 1, footnote 9, talks about public storage and the density or design flow that could be reduced if restrictive covenants are recorded on the parcel, and that's what we're proposing to do. So we'll outline that on our plans so it's very clear for the board and for the planners to review. But it's certainly our position that we comply. And we will not be seeking a variance from the Board of Appeals at the Health Department. With respect to the FAA, we have 5 letters which we put on the plan. It's on C107. that there's no hazard to air navigation from the FAA. And those are for the coordinates of the 4 corners of the building and the actual ultimate height of the building. So there's 5 letters of approval from the FAA for the height of the building. However, we are aware that on the survey, which I'm not sure why, I understood that that a survey was submitted, and we'll certainly submit a full-size one.
I don't have that.
But there are 2 lines on the survey, which I guess it's on the title page in a smaller picture.
Yeah, I mean,
which is hard to read. So basically,
right,
there's
we
2
need
lines
readable
on the survey
information.
to the very north of the property, which actually is closer, the further north you go, you get closer to the runway, right? So there's 2 lines. One is a building line for 25 feet, and the other is a building line building height restriction of 20 feet. Obviously, we are looking for these easements, and once we have them, we will review them, and if we have to comply with the height of this restriction, we certainly will. But you can see they are to the very north of the property, the north corner of the property. And we'll submit that for the board's review as well. But as far as the FAA is concerned, we do have
I'm sorry.
the letters of approval.
You mean these lines, right?
Yes.
So through the property,
Yeah.
right? Not to the north. Okay.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah. The northern part.
The
Okay.
northern
Yeah.
part of the
Just want to
property.
make sure I understood what you said.
Yeah. Sure. And so we'll be updating the plans with respect to that. If we have to change the height of the building, we'll certainly do that. And then that's it. ADA, we have other things we need to address besides the height issue. We have to correct the number of dry wells. We have to give details about the lighting fixtures for the lighting plan. The ADA compliance, really all we need to do is give the sizes of the entrance and the bathrooms. The parking spaces are listed as 10 by 20 on the plans. The fire hydrants are shown on each plan. The transformer obviously belongs to the electric company. There's an easement, which you can see on the survey, which they should have had the benefit for. I'm sorry, they didn't have the benefit of the survey. And it's not our transformer, it's owned by the electric company, and they maintain it. We did submit a SWIP plan, it's on C-105, and the type of septic system will certainly be approved by the Suffolk County Department of Health Services, and it's going to be a low nitrogen system as well. So we have some work to do, but we certainly look forward to working with the town and working with the board as we go through this process.
Thank you very much for that.
Sure. Do you have questions for me?
Presentation. We'll discuss and we'll come back.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Tina, for the summary. Thanks, Liz, for the explanation.
Sure.
Appreciate it. I'm glad to hear that you understand what the challenges are. There's still work to do, as you pointed out. You seem to have a good handle on what the issues are: ADA, drainage, lighting, all the things that you just enumerated, making sure that the building height is appropriate per the FAA, those kinds of things. At the risk of sounding speculative about your basement, this is unusual for East Hampton, right? I mean, I don't know of any other self-storage that has a full unfinished basement at all, let alone one that you can drive into, right?
Have slabs?
The ones that I know of do, but I can't say that I know about all of them. But it is unusual for sure, and the drive-in aspect of it is also unusual. And you don't build a 19,000 square foot basement under a structure like this, inexpensively, right? So there's obviously something in mind here, and I think we'd like to know a little bit more about the intended use. That's a lot of storage, right? And if there's any intention to have vehicles circulate in some way in there, that leads to a lot of other planning issues having to do with ventilation and those kinds of things. Okay. But I'm just saying, I think we need a little bit more information. If the answer is the owner, and I'm speculating here, if the answer is the owner of the building wants to use this as storage for their stuff, that would be an answer, right? But I think we need to know a little bit more about, the purpose of this basement, particularly since it's drive-in. I think it's, like I said, it's an unusual circumstance.
Well, there have been a lot of representations that what it's not going to be. So, my question would be,
what is it?
You want to put it in writing?
Yeah.
CNR?
If we have to, sure.
Okay. All right.
So I have a very similar question.
I have to go back to my client and ask that.
Well, no. I mean, I know that's one of the things we ask.
We're proposing this as an unfinished.
Yeah, no, I mean, to my way of thinking, if the applicant's willing to make a covenant and restriction or whatever council tells us is the most, the best way to make that certain going in the future, that goes a long way to addressing the concerns that I have with such a large, basically underground facility that is accessible by vehicles.
We would be willing to.
I'm hesitating to call it an underground garage because I don't want to do that. But you can understand that. I think it would be. I don't think we have any underground garages in town.
I don't think so. And if
Maybe some residents
necessary,
might
why do we have the driveway then?
So I'm sorry. My question is very similar, but a little different. Why have this in the first place? Why have a ramp that goes down with a garage door below grade? Why, if you're not going to put a car down there, if you're not going to use that space for anything, why have that?
If you're not using it in connection with the actual self-storage business, doesn't mean it can't be used by the owner of that business to store their own items, right? So it doesn't
Store
mean
their own what?
their own items, like not for professional, not for
vehicles.
profit, but for their own, like you would use any unfinished basement space. I mean, it's very typical, actually.
Well, it's a little less typical in a commercial situation, right? I mean,
I don't know about that. I mean, you're building a new building, right?
Yeah,
you want to be able to use it.
No,
Yeah.
Well, the only point I would make on that is that it probably is the only underground storage facility of that size, certainly of that size. And
accessible by a car.
And accessible by a vehicle.
I think you have an issue with the access to it, but
Well,
it's
that
an
changes-
unfinished space, and
It's not a staircase, it makes it easier to use it for other things. But again, and I don't want to monopolize on this, but I think a CNR, a covenant restriction,
could do it.
Could, just takes the issue away.
yeah, there's no potential car storage or circulation or anything like that proposed. So we'll be happy to do that.
Shortcutted.
Yep.
A lot of the problems or issues.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else with any comments at this point? I mean, you've got a lot of work
We just
cut
have to
out for
update our
you,
plans.
and
Yep.
I'm glad to hear the yes, we'll do it.
Of course.
As much as we're hearing, so
We're gonna
that's
do it.
good.
Yeah.
But
It's a
before
process.
we go to our 3 questions.
Yep. But I do want to make one final comment, and that is, I think, CNR could really be helpful in this situation, but, typically those are about what you're not going to do, right? And I think I personally would like to have a little bit more of a narrative about what the intention is, a little bit beyond, maybe the owner of the building wants to throw stuff down there. I'd like a little bit more.
Sure, we can do that. We need more of a narrative.
Okay. Lou, do you have anything you want to add on this one?
I have a question. So I'm glad to hear what Ms. Vale said about the septic system and the capacity of it, that in making the application to the Suffolk County Health Department, there's a provision that allows a different flow rate for a storage building, correct?
Yes, it's, well,
Right, so I'm glad to hear that.
Right.
Which makes sense, because if you have 3 employees using the bathrooms, it's not going to create very much flow.
Right.
But my question is this, and maybe I'm addressing it to Tina, if she knows the answer. So if this company goes out of business, or this business is not a viable one, and they decide to turn this building into a different type of use,
sorry,
how would that affect the size of the building? If they decide to make it an office building, let's say, what would happen with the capacity that they put in that was addressed or adhered, it was directed towards a storage system? How would that change? What would happen in that case?
Yeah, I mean, and everybody wants to answer your question, Lou. Everybody is ready. They don't want me to. I mean, it's a few different things. They would need to get approvals if they're changing to a different use from the town if it triggered site plan. I mean, there's possibility of that. If it didn't trigger site plan, they wouldn't need to
come to the site plan.
You know, my
They
thinking.
would need to get an approval from the Suffolk County Department of Health Services for any amendment
'cause
like
all of
that.
a
It would
sudden
not be
it's-
appropriate for any other use except for the storage.
Well, you know, tell me when I go off the rails on this. There is no use as the town code does not contain mini storage, self-service storage as a category anywhere. And in the 6 years that I have been privileged to be the chairman of this board, I think I've had 6 mini storage applications. And each time I say the same thing. We're building the airplane while we fly it, because while we have developed certain, I don't want to call them standards or doctrines, but ultimately we kind of know what we want to do, well, not want to do, but what we need to do, and usually it involves parking is this a major issue. We have to. We don't have a standard. We don't have a town created standard that from the code that we look at in the case of a self-storage unit. So each time we have to kind of say, okay, is this right? You're shaking your head in agreement?
Well, my position is that you have many standards. You have all your site plan standards.
Yeah, yes, we do, but we have to cobble them together every time we get a self-storage or a mini storage, or whatever the phrase of the art is, and this is one of them. And so we have to, that's why there's so many issues that have to be addressed, because, we're not just check. We're going to check, oh, okay, we can do that. Check, oh, we can do that too. So anyway, and I think, Lou, the answer to your question is, so once we go through that exercise of creating a self-storage here, or allowing a self-storage to be created here, for this space to be anything else, it's going to have to go, like Tina said, through site plan all over again, if it's not going to be this. So that was a very long-winded way of saying, don't worry about it. All right, so Lou, do you have anything else? Seriously, all kidding aside.
No, that's it, Sam. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any comments, questions, issues? All right, we'll do the questions and then we'll let you go. All right, the first one is, does the planning board require additional clarification regarding the proposed use specifically of the basement to facilitate a consensus on whether the proposal is appropriate? And that,
Yes.
anyone disagree with that?
No,
Okay.
do not disagree.
All right. Does the planning board agree the planning department's assessment of additional information that must be provided per town code 255-6-50, the necessary elements which Tina went through?
Yes.
All agree on that?
Yeah.
Okay, Lou?
Yes.
That's a yes. And finally, should the applicant respond to comments issued at the last planning board discussion, including but not limited to involving reducing the size, the size, I think this word of is missing, of the building, minimizing impervious surfaces, and clarifying the uses. And I think
Kind of done that.
yeah, I think we're beyond that at this point. Anybody disagree with that assessment?
Size.
Building size, building height.
Height, yeah, well, okay, yes.
Right.
Well, yeah, and height is also going to be a function of the FAA, making sure that you comply with a higher authority on that. So,
We haven't talked about impervious surfaces.
we haven't.
We have in previous reviews, we didn't repeat every comment. Some we did because we wanted to emphasize those, but, we would just ask, because we've reviewed very similar plans at the same times, if the applicants go through and make sure they're addressing everything, because if they don't now, they'll probably come up again. And when we did talk about this last time, we were talking about the mass of the building is, quite large. But again, to Liz's point, it's permissible in, so.
And it's a large lot. It's double
It
the
is a large
size.
lot.
Yeah. And it doesn't require any variances.
Yeah, no, now we heard, you put right in the lead, so that's just fine. Okay, does anybody else have anything?
No.
Okay, then you got your work cut out for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, board members. I hope you have a nice holiday
You
season.
do the same, thank you. Okay, we're going to move into our regular meeting, and Ava, we've got the Sylvan Realty modification resolution.
Yes. In the matter of the application of Sylvan Realty LLC, site plan special permit, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-160-4-9. I have read the resolution, and I make a motion to approve it. All in approval?
Well, I'll second.
I say, is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
I got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed, 6-0. Lou, you got the last one.
Yeah. But I,
Rushmeyer's parking lot resurfacing.
oh, I'm sorry, I don't have that one.
Don't have it?
This is new.
Oh, hold on. Then,
Came on today.
Yeah, just came on.
No.
no, ancient knowles. I have it here. If you don't have it, Lou, I'll take care of it. Hold on. Thank you very much. Okay, in the matter of the application of Rushmeyer's parking lot resurfacing site plan, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-27-4-27, the extension, the planning board extends the time within which the applicant must comply with the conditions of the board's resolution retroactively in 1-year increments to obtain a certificate of occupancy or until May 15, 2025. I move for the approval of this extension of time. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed. Passed 6-0. Finally, since I just undid my very neat stack, here we go. We have 3 boards of review. The first is at the request of Pteris Desinis. I apologize for mauling your name. I got close, I think. At 42 Surfside Avenue in Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-51-4-4. The work to be done is to install asphalt top course pavement along South Etna Avenue to a width of 20 feet, starting at the intersection of Montauk Highway and continuing south and west for a distance of 536 linear feet with a minimum of 1.5-inch New York State Type 6F asphalt, as directed by the town engineer. And the bond on that, the undertaking, I should say, on that is $15,000. I've reviewed the Board of Review and move for its adoption. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Lou. Any opposed? Passed 6-0. Next is a request of Michael Pierce for a building permit at 17 Atwell Street in East Hampton, including portions of Morell Street, and Suffolk County Tax Map is 300-123-4-3.5. The work to be performed on that is prepare, stabilize, and fine grade the subbase to a width. I'm sorry, this is along Harborview Avenue. Prepare, stabilize, and fine grade the subbase to a width of 26 feet, starting at the edge of the existing asphalt pavement in the vicinity of urban renewal parcel number 8, continuing west for a distance of 193 feet, as directed by the town's consulting engineer. Install asphalt binder course pavement along Harborview to a width of 24 feet at the edge of existing asphalt pavement in the vicinity of urban renewal parcel 8, and continuing west for a distance of 192 feet with a minimum of 2.5 inches of New York State Type 3 asphalt base. The undertaking on this one is $14,500. I've reviewed the Board of Review and move for its adoption. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. 6-0. Finally, the Board of Review of the requests of Elenka Hunter, 33 Harborview Drive, LLC, for a building permit at 33 Harborview Drive, Suffolk County Tax, including portions of Travato Avenue and portions of Montgomery Avenue, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-94-7-1.1. The work to be done on this is to install asphalt top course along Harborview Drive to a width of 24 feet, starting at the intersection of 3 Mile Harbor Road and continuing east for a distance of 433 feet with a minimum of 1.5 inches of New York State Type 6F asphalt top, as directed by the town's consulting engineer. The undertaking is in the sum of $14,500. I have reviewed the Board of Review and move for its adoption. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passed 6-0. Finally, I have reviewed the minutes of the board's meeting of November 20th, 2024, and they appear to be accurate, and I move for their adoption. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes, thank you, Luke. Passed 6-0. Okay, our final meeting of the year will be in 2 weeks. And I'm afraid that we will be led by someone other than the incredibly capable and wonderful, and let me say it now because you won't be here at the end of the year. Thank you, Tina, for everything you've done under very, very changing circumstances. I'm looking for the right adjective. So, but thank you for everything you do. You make our job much easier, and you, more importantly, make us look good. So, thank you very much, Tina. You have a great holiday. Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Lou?
Who's gone?
Who's gone? All right. Yes.
No.
You turned on